Come with me as I head to San Francisco to host this exciting event to celebrate Immigrant Heritage Month. I'm hosting this event for the expat woman community called the Expat Experience. It's a multicultural event. There's going to be lots of networking and a panel discussion with some of the partners of our event today. So they include the Polish Professional Women of Silicon Valley, Japanese Women Initiative of the Bay Area, Asians Are Strong, Open Austria, and the Women of MENA in Technology, MENA standing for Middle East and North Africa.
Recording. Anyone want to say anything?
So we have our panelists who are also our partners. So I wanted it to be really like I would have loved to have 10 panelists, but that's not possible. So I wanted women and organizations that work with different groups of women here in the Bay Area from different countries. I've known the Polish professional women for like 1 year now, or a little over 1 year. They invited me last year to be the keynote speaker at their amazing International Women's Day event, and ever since that, Joanna, and right now my mind is going like so, and Joanna, Garcia, and all the other ladies over here, they're just amazing group of women, and they've partnered with us for quite a few events now, so happy to have you guys back. But this is the first time Joanna is a panelist at the event, so it's very cool. And I'll have all my panelists introduce themselves, but I just want to give each of you ladies a shout out. Next is Makiko from the Japanese Women's Initiative in the Bay Area. I have never, so besides Joanna and Isabella, the other three ladies I only know through LinkedIn. So, and I asked them and they said yes. So the power of LinkedIn. I mean, Isabella, we have not met, so it was still like, I asked still came, but yeah, so just ask anything you want, just use LinkedIn or whatever social media, and people either say yes, no, or they'll ignore you. But I want to thank you all. You said yes to me. So actually last year I went, I'm still with Japanese ladies, I went to Japan for the first time last year. I just fell in love with Tokyo. So I was like, I have to get someone from a Japanese women organization on the panel. So I looked at the Japanese women's organization, and their organization showed up, and I wrote to them, and that's how they're here today. So, and I look for other countries too. So, but these are the ladies who are available and who had time. And then we have Asians Are Strong, Zen, and Zen has a very multicultural background. We'll have Zen share her story too, but again, I love the work that you do because I know Asians suffered a lot, I think, during the pandemic, post-pandemic, and I just like the mission. Again, I'm looking for an Asian, strong, Asia, as you said, covers so many countries. Even Indians are Asian, so if someone says she's Asian and they're telling me, she's Asian, I'm like, I'm Asian too, it's like, so it's just interesting. Okay, then we have Sepide. Sepide I've known a long time, pre-pandemic. She used to be my moderator of panels. Like, she works in Women in Tech. I don't know how many panels she's moderated, but I've seen her after like 6, 7, 8 years, I don't know. 10 years? So yeah, so it's like, it feels like a reunion, but so glad to have her. She's doing amazing work with women in the Middle East and North Africa in tech. And then we have Isabella Thomas. I met Silke, her colleague at a European.
Next door.
European networking event, right? And Silke was behind in the line and we got talking. And she told me she works Open Austria. I mean, even talking to people here, you never know like who you talk to can become a connection and then can become a panelist. So I just, I'm sure all of you have some amazing stories, but that's how I connect with Open Austria. Alright, so very quickly I'll explain about the expat woman, because after that, the panel is going to be open for the discussion is panelists. I'll try not to talk. Sepida, did I have your photograph 2 times already? Okay. See how much I love you, Sepida. I have you 2 times. So that's me, of course. So I'm the founder and CEO of the Expat Woman. I moved to the US almost 23 years ago. I came to New York to study film. And then I met my husband. Some of you heard the story. We got married very quickly after, and moved here because he didn't want me to go back to India because he thought I'll get one of those arranged marriages and he'd lose me. So he proposed to me. And like in those days, not in the, it's a long time ago, but his parents thought I was marrying for the green card. My parents thought I was crazy. So he's American, but he's Italian, Swiss French, like second, third generation. And they were like, but somehow we vibed and we're still married. Touch wood, fingers crossed. Never, you never know. But that's how I ended up living in the US. He was born in San Francisco, so. But when I came to the US, even though he's a great supporter and he works in film, I barely ever saw him because he'd be on at 4 in the morning and come back late at night because film shoots are very long. That's why I didn't continue my career in film. I was like, this is not like a profession for me. But I realized how hard it is being an international woman, and I didn't come here to stay permanently. I only came here to study. So I'm what you call an accidental expat. I didn't come prepared. I didn't even know much about San Francisco. I was telling someone here, I think I said you, Alyssa, that I lived in a bubble in India. I didn't know much about other cultures. Like India, we have tourists, but it's not like this. Your events will not look like this unless you go to an expat event. And I have learned about so many cultures after moving to the Bay Area. I only lived in New York and San Francisco, so that's the only 2 references. But I have met people from so many countries, and it has just broadened my horizon. But when I came here, I really struggled to meet other women who had moved here. And I realized that I would meet people who were born here. And again, I'm not knocking on Americans, but it was very hard. You've lived abroad a lot, it's Anna, so but it was just very hard to connect with people. And in India, when you're a foreigner, people go out of their way, they'll take you out to eat, they'll invite you to the house, and I was like so lonely, I was so depressed. And then I started looking for organizations that, like this, but there was nothing, so I created the Expat Women because I was like, and especially as a professional woman, we have zero network. When you come here and in the US, networks are so important, getting a job, even hosting events like this. So that's my story on what led me to found the Expat Women. I found it in 2013 after I made a feature-length documentary film on gender violence in India. So after the film was done, I'm like, I'm going to start the organization. I have met so many amazing women, and as you can see, like Seppi, they were known for many years, and then new friends, and hopefully we all stay in touch. So that's my story. Very quickly, the Expat Women is a global platform, right? So after the pandemic, or during the pandemic, it went beyond San Francisco because I then grew the organization because I was hosting virtual events. Now we have women all over the world who are expats. And then we host events. I don't know if any of you are in that photograph, but this was an event we hosted. I think it was at Zillow. So these are some of the upcoming events. Sorry, I'm jumping. So I have a membership. This is an event I host every month for my members. It's an Ask Me Anything. So I'm also a LinkedIn coach, and I've been growing my YouTube channel. So part of the Expat Women mission is to empower women to share their voice when they move to another country. What I realized when I moved here, no one knew me. I was somebody back in India, but suddenly I was invisible. And people say, what do you do? I didn't have a job. I didn't want to meet people because I just felt I didn't have an identity. My husband's name is Gino. I was Gino's wife. That was it. And I'm sure some of you might identify with that. And so I use LinkedIn, now I use YouTube to share my voice and give other women the inspiration that don't hide. You might have an accent, you might look different, you may not have American experience, but you have to put yourself out there, and it's scary initially, but I've had so many amazing opportunities come from putting myself out there. So that's the whole goal of the Expat Women, is to help women make bold moves abroad by putting ourselves out there. So that's what this event is about. And these are events that are coming up. I know they're members only, but I might invite some of you to these events. I'm also a LinkedIn coach, so that's another event I'm hosting in August. And then I'm hosting, so every quarter I host a global virtual networking event. Did anyone attend my event last week? The global virtual networking event? Alyssa was, Lana, Mariana. So we had about 95, I think, totally women coming from almost all over the world. They went into breakout rooms, and there were so many amazing connections. So I do this once a quarter. It's free, open to anyone, but it's just a beautiful way for women to connect. very quickly tell you about the Expat Women membership. So this is a paid community. So my events, so the Expat Women is a social enterprise, and our revenue comes from our membership, from our events, from sponsorships, etc. So this is some, okay, for the members, we have a couple of members in the room. And Malena, Saili, and Anna are three of my members who are attending. So it's a paid community, and we have three different things that we focus on: the community, helping women connect with each other. We have resources, and then I spoke about helping women build their visibility. So I have a lot of opportunities for women to, I host summits where our members are speakers, they host master classes, so just helping them build their confidence and showcase and spotlight their expertise. And the women are amazing in my membership. There's no people, like the cliche thing is when you bring women together, there's like a lot of gossip, toxicity. The women are all amazing. Like I've never had any drama. It's just like, right? It's such a great more competition. And I'm hoping, even with my events and everything, it's just women can come together and collaborate instead of pulling each other down. And I'm sure all of you have similar stories because you all run organizing. I mean, yours is both men and women, but if you bring women together and there's a positive attitude and focus, it's such a different vibe. So yeah, this is what some of our members say about the membership. These are some of the benefits of joining the membership. And okay, so before I start my panel, I'm growing the Expat Women YouTube channel. It's at 908 right now subscribers. I want to get to 1,000. So I have the QR code. So I'm hoping everyone subscribes to it. Huh?
I said, let's do it, ladies.
Ladies.
And the one is the 1,000, you should send them an email.
Yes. Yeah.
After complimentary membership, whatever.
I need to make you my PR person. Yeah, so please subscribe. It's good content. If you told me like when I moved to US in one day doing your own YouTube channel, I said no way. Now sometimes my hair is messy, my makeup, I don't have lipstick on my teeth sometimes. I just my cats, sometimes I have 4 cats, they're like climbing all over me, but you just show up as your authentic self. How much? 914. Wow, okay. Awesome. Maybe by the end of the night I'll get to like whatever, 915. Alright. So with that was a lot of information, but now I'm going to have my amazing panelists. I'm going to have each of you introduce yourself, share what your organization does, what led you to create it, or in your case, what made you work for the organization, and where did you move from and what brought you to the US. So maybe we'll just go down the line for the first one, and then I need to pass it down. And I want to make this very chill and relaxed. And hopefully we'll have Q&A at the end, but let's have fun.
Hello everybody, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you Naina for inviting me. And yes, my story is very similar to yours actually. I feel like I can hold my story here. So I am from Poland. I came here this year, it will be 17 years. And I came here just for fun. For exchange program for 1 year. I never thought I would stay in US. Everyone was saying, oh, you probably will stay there. I'm like, no, I will not stay there. But of course, what happened? I met my husband, my future husband, that is my current husband. Still, first husband. And yes, similar to Naina, I didn't know what I'm gonna do here. I came and decided to stay for love, and okay, now I have to figure out what I'm gonna do professionally. And what happened, I was fortunate enough to meet people who helped me figure it out, which direction to go. And I always thought it would be fun to work in a tech company. I always thought that it might be interesting. And I started different certifications, and it all went well, and I got my first internship in the tech company, and since then I'm in tech, which may change soon, who knows. But on a way, for all the years, I got into the point that I was looking for a women's organization that can support me in some way, and I couldn't find any. That's how actually Polish Professional Women of Silicon Valley was established and created. It was at the end of 2018 together with my co-founder Magda, who is not here unfortunately. But I talked to her about this idea. I got inspired by similar organization in Netherlands. I don't know if Zayan, maybe you heard about Polish Professional Women in Netherlands. And that was a huge inspiration for me. And I thought, why there's nothing like that here in US or in Silicon Valley? And that sparked that idea to actually start it. And now we have 12 to 14 core members who are all volunteers and work on this organization, creating events, organizing events, inviting different speakers, working on different programs, and it's really, really inspiring. We have more than 200 members right now. We create mentorship programs, we support each other, we help each other, and that's the beauty of the organization like that. And even though it's Polish Professional Women of Silicon Valley, we are open, we are inclusive. We invite men to as our panelists. We also have a board member who is actually my co-founder Magda's husband. He's our board member who brings different perspective, helps us figure out different things as well, which is really important. And we are open to all, and we are open to everyone who wants to support women and their career and career development journey. I think that's it.
Okay, so I can tell a slightly different story. My name is Isabella. I'm from Graz, Austria, which is a fairly small town, for those who don't know it, 300,000 inhabitants. And in my case, it wasn't necessarily love that brought me here, but actually the job. I'm an Austrian diplomat. I've been in foreign service for a bit over 16 years now. And I've done what diplomats do, which is go abroad, work abroad for a couple of years usually, then rotate on, as we call it. We can do 2 postings abroad in a row, and then we have to go back home to the mothership, as I call it. San Francisco is my 4th posting altogether. I've previously worked at the Austrian embassies in Belgrade, Serbia, in Madrid, Spain, in Brasilia, Brazil, and now I'm here. I'm not at the embassy, of course, so this is going to be the little teaching session. I'm at the consulate. We get a lot of calls of people asking, is this the Austrian embassy in San Francisco? And I always go, no, it's not. The embassy is in Washington, because embassies are in capitals. I know. Exactly, but it's totally normal, because as a diplomat, I feel confident to say that we are a very weird bunch of people. It's a total bubble. Within this bubble, we use, weird lingo, as people sometimes in big companies do too, funny abbreviations, and words mean different things to us than to others. And it's totally natural and actually quite healthy if you guys do not do that. I used to say I was a classic diplomat before I came to San Francisco, but given that here I'm mainly in charge of Silicon Valley, the Bay Area, and I'm gonna say 90% of my job is see what's going on in tech, science, innovation, etc. Both as with reference to Austrians that are here, that work here, Austrians that come here, that are interested in getting to know what's happening, what's the newest, what's the latest, how do you call this car that doesn't have a driver, and so on and so forth. And so us at Open Austria, my colleague Silke, who's also in the audience, and my other co-workers, we're a small team of 7. We are the bridge, you could say, between Austria and Silicon Valley, trying to explain how Austria works to people around here and the other way around. So this is actually what I would say is the comparative advantage of actually being here and living here. Because you can always read the news and read international news everywhere in the world and say, you know, why would you need a consulate or an embassy in whichever country? Because we know what's going on there, right? You know, we have people on the ground, etc., etc. But actually living abroad in another place gives you a whole different view and a whole different perspectives. And since I've done it several times already, I know the drill and I know what it's like to get to a place where, for example, you don't speak the language and you may, you know, I speak some languages, so you can try all the ones you speak and see how far you get, but there will always be a point where you don't really get much further because the person on the other end is just like, no. And then your internet connection doesn't work and they tell you to call a helpline and you just don't understand a word. And this is where you get to know yourself and your limits. So it's, being a diplomat can be a slightly masochistic exercise, which is probably why I chose this job, because a happy life would have just been really boring. So yeah, that's what we do. I've been here for almost 3 years now. So in diplomatic terms, I'm almost a veteran. Our postings are usually 4 years, sometimes a little bit longer, but not usually. And then I will rotate on, and no, I have no idea where the next station is going to be. I got the written confirmation and I would come to San Francisco on June 24th, 2022, and August 23rd was my first day on the job. So that's what we call a sporty deadline. It's not always like that, but it can be like that, and so you better be ready. So yeah, that's part of my story anyway, but I'll pass it on and I'm open for questions, of course.
How much longer do you have left? Is
Well,
everybody's?
No, I mean, technically a bit more than a year. The document that brought me here, the legal document, says summer 2026 is probably the end of my term, but it always says probably because both sides want to have a margin of maneuver, and yeah, makes it
I'm
easy.
glad we got you before
Yeah.
you moved, right? I had no idea that you were coming like close to the end of your term, so.
Well, another year.
But you know how the year goes, right? So
Yes.
yeah, awesome. Thanks. All right.
How to follow that? Hi everyone. Thank you so much, Naya. We've known each other for over 10 years. That's a long time.
Yeah.
And it takes more than one organization to support our communities around the world. I'm so excited to be here again. Thank you for inviting me. And Cloudflare as well for hosting us. This is the first time I'm looking into the audience. Everybody looks different. I'm serious. So my name is Sepida Nassiri. I'm the founder and CEO of Women of MENA in Technology. How did I land here? I came in as an immigrant. I am a child of the world. I was born in Iran, so I'm an Iranian American. I came in like every other immigrant. And I was lucky enough to have an opportunity to expand and live here and have an education and contribute like any other immigrant here. My father decided after I turned 4 to move from Iran to Germany. So ja, ich spreche Deutsch. I lived there for, ich habe in Deutschland für 10 Jahren gelebt, so about 10 years. And then it was time for us to move, and it was when we moved to the US. My dad researched and made sure that we moved into Silicon Valley. Down the street from Sun Microsystem and Apple. I went to high school where it was very normal to know computers, and I'm not gonna age myself like everybody else did and said how long they've been here, because it's been much longer. And, you know, after high school I went to college. Everybody decided what they wanted to do, and my parents or my culture tells you become a lawyer, a doctor, or an engineer. Not for me. I wanted to be an entrepreneur and innovate. So started my first company right out of college, sold it within 3 years, started my second company right after, because I had the privilege of meeting amazing people within the women in tech ecosystem. Was acquired in 2016. Started my third company, which is Women of MENA in Technology. All of it and every single company I started was serendipity of selfishness. Because I needed something, I found a need in the ecosystem. So for Women of MENA in Technology, we had merged from just supporting women into different identity. What DEI meant, diversity meant, changes in who we are meant, and bringing those team members together and magic can happen. And we wanted to paint a different picture for MENA women, Middle East and North African descent. And for me, I didn't see them anywhere. I wonder even today how many are in the audience besides the people I invited. 10 years in, we have grown into over 100,000 members worldwide. We're in over 20 cities. We have been partnered, sponsored, supported with any company under the sun. So whether it's Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco printing money downstairs and we talk about Bitcoins and getting away from real money, to the Microsofts and the Googles and the Deloittes of the world. For me personally, the reason I started this organization was to create a space for belonging and education. Because how much do we know about anybody's culture? They act as employees, but are they who they are or what we think who they are? How can we get to know them so we can also make a space for them to feel comfortable in their seats at the office? That was the reason I started this organization. Now, it's beyond that. It's about collaboration. Because as immigrants, as June is also immigrant month, as much as it is June 19th, I think, Juneteenth, and also LGBTQ+, we really need to consider how do we create workspaces where everybody feels belonged. And collaborations of different organizations can make that happen, not just one. I don't believe one organization on this panel alone will succeed in their mission if they're not collaborating. So 10 years in, I'm so excited that we still are working with other organizations like Expat Women. And I hope we continue doing that so we can sit in spaces like this and tell our stories. Beyond being a founder, I'm also a mother. A lot of people don't know. He's 3. And my husband works as much as I do, if not more, but we do things together. Because at the end of the day, the ecosystem we are preserving or creating is not just for us, but for the next generation. Thank you for having me.
So yeah, thank you for having me today, Nina. My name is Makiko, and actually, my story is I moved to California 3 years ago, and actually it's my first time to live abroad. My journey in the US started. I was invited as a visiting scholar at Stanford, but before that, I have been working as policy consultant in Japan. My major client was the Ministry of Health, and I have been working a lot of project in the super aging society in Japan. And so after that, even though Japan is has the very good healthcare outcome, and we have the public insurance system. But even though we have this kind of system, there is a limitation of what the policy can do. So I tried to pursue the role of private sector. That I moved to California, and during that time, I met the CEO of Sompo Digital Lab I'm currently working. It's the open innovation lab run by Japanese large insurance company. And my role here is to bring age tech innovation to business development in Japan, because Sompo not only provide the property and casualty insurance, we started new business in healthcare and senior care field. That is my professional job. But during I belong to Stanford, I met many energetic women. That's why I co-founded Geneva non-profit organization in the US, because actually I was very surprised how many Japanese experts from Japanese large companies are here in the Silicon Valley. Because I assumed before I come to Silicon Valley, I assumed maybe it has most male experts from Japan, but the real situation was beyond my expectation. And many of the women I met is in their 30s and 40s, and they have the struggle in balancing raising their children in unfamiliar circumstances, as well as how to develop their careers after they return to Japan. Because in Japan, most Japanese large companies send employees on rotation, last only 3 to 4 years. So they are worrying about the career development after they return to Japan. So seeing that situation, I and my colleagues in the Bay Area, my friend in the Bay Area, decided to establish the community promoting the diversity, inclusion, and innovation, and especially focused on the Japanese women professionals. That's why, and because the woman I saw was very energetic. Even though they have some worries in their life and in their careers, they are very energetic, and I think there is a possibility, we can scale up their energy to the new things in the future. So that's why I'm here today. So I'm very happy to attend this wonderful meetup. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Zayin Shun, and I'm very honored to be here. Amazing women here on the panel and here in the audience. So I was born in the Netherlands from immigrant parents who immigrated from Hong Kong. And I was there till my late 20s, and then I moved to England. And then from England, I got here. So my, I would say, immigrant journey or expat journey really started when I left the Netherlands. I co-founded Asians Are Strong, which is a nonprofit, 100% volunteer-based grassroots here in San Francisco that was born out of anti-Asian hate. And that was all during the pandemic. And that was with a group of friends. And we really focused on from reaction-based to action, how to be your own hero, and how we were going to, equip ourselves. And so a group of my team is here as well, and our other founder is here, and he was to provide free self-defense for seniors because the seniors were attacked. And if you're not familiar with the news, what happened was indeed, perpetrators were attacking very vulnerable population. So that's how we started, and over time, Now, after the pandemic, we're focusing on a lot of community events to create space of belonging, right? And also education, because how are we going to educate ourselves, breaking bread with other communities, and ultimately changing the narrative, right? Focusing on Asian heritage, as well on, the current events that are impacting us. So that's what my nonprofit is about. Happy to answer any questions with regards to my culture. It's a very interesting journey. Often people also ask, like, where's that accent coming from? Well, I'm from the Netherlands, and I got you some stroopwafels, so hope you will enjoy that. But yeah, I would love to give it back to Nina and, have a little conversation here, because I love all these new girlfriends that I'm making here.
Beautiful, thank you. And talking about the Netherlands, I'm almost 5'9". The only time in my life I felt short was in the Netherlands.
Imagine, I came here and I felt suddenly very tall.
But I remember, I was like, this is what it feels. I was on a train and going to Amsterdam, and I was at someone's armpit level. I've never been usually people at my armpit level, and I was like, oh my God, so this is what it must feel like when people are, short, but people are so tall there. But very good thing. All your stories and all your journeys just, right, give me goosebumps listening to each of your stories and what led you to the US and your cultural experience and your missions and goals for the organizations you run. So my next question, I'm going to ask a few questions together. What is going to happen once we're done and we have a little Q&A, I'm going to then open up to networking again, so then everyone can pick all our panelists' brains and get to know them more. But I have a few more questions. So my next question, which led me to form the Expat Women and all of you to start your organizations of work is, first of all, what was the biggest culture shock you faced when you moved to the US? What are the challenges that the women or the community you work with, what do they face when they move here? And then of course, Zien since you know about culture, you spoke about the snacks you brought from, also what did you bring? Because I'm fascinated by multicultural food. And as I said, in India, I only had Indian food. I traveled abroad and I would look for Indian restaurants to eat Indian food. That was how much of an, but it's in the US where I broke out of that mold that the other foods are nice too, and now I just want to try every cuisine. So, whether it's a snack, a dessert, I just think it's so amazing that we have all these amazing dishes, and sometimes with some of them you have to acquire taste, some of them, like when I first came in, I was like, what is it, root beer? I was like, my gosh, this tastes like cough syrup. What is this? Now I love it with ice. And then my first Thanksgiving meal, my husband's family is American, and they were talking about, Thanksgiving, amazing, our food is so good, and I wanted to cry when I saw the taste of the turkey and the mashed potatoes and the spaghetti squash. This is what I have to eat for the rest of my life. I took the turkey home and turned it into a nice spicy curry. So lucky my husband's family is Italian, so you like garlic. But the interesting one story before I went, his grandmother was born here, but she's Italian. But in those days, when Italians came, they really wanted to assimilate into the US culture, especially when they lived in New Jersey, because they faced a lot of discrimination. So she changed her name. She became very Americanized, and my husband and his brother said, bring some Indian food for the second Thanksgiving. So I brought some Indian food. She was so upset. She's like, you are spoiling Thanksgiving. And then they looked up the Thanksgiving menu, like the original one. It was like venison, and it wasn't what we eat today, turkey. They were like, this is not even traditional Thanksgiving food. So it's just, when my husband's grandmother came, they wanted to be so Americanized. And I love that today we can own our cultures and be proud of it, be proud of our accents, be proud of our food. I'm glad we've all come to the country. I know there's always going to be discrimination, racism, whatever's happening right now, but let's own our culture, our accent, our language, spread it. I learned from so many other, like today I just feel like I learned, for instance, the embassy thing, I didn't even know it was only in DC. I just thought, even though there's the Indian consulate here, I never even thought of that. And then everything that each of you shared, so it's just, I think when we learn from other cultures, it makes us more empathetic, it also expands our brain. I think it does, there's something called cultural intelligence. We've heard of emotional intelligence, but cultural intelligence is where you understand other cultures. And in today's remote hybrid world, it's so important to understand how other cultures work. I went to Japan last year for vacation, and I actually used ChatGPT before I went to say what are the do's and don'ts, so I don't offend or insult anyone in Japan. And it was so helpful. And the only thing that I did bad was I ate an ice cream while walking, because usually you don't eat food when you walk, because if someone's hungry and they smell the food, it can make them feel hungry. I really like that. They're very respectful. Because in the US, they're just eating food, walking, right on the train, on the street, right? They're using the bathroom. That's like, so just like, you learn and you learn to respect those cultures, and you don't like question them, but you accept them. And that one more thing, last thing I want to say, when you come to the US, like I always compare it to India, and I tell my husband, oh, in India we do this way, it's better in India, this is so, and my kids are American, they're like, it's not the right thing, I shouldn't be doing that. And I've recently read something about unlearning. We have to unlearn what we learn in our country, and we have to accept, may not always be the right way, but it makes it easier to fit into the country when, like, they love root beer, so I'm going to enjoy root beer too, or I'm going to try to like it. But this is their Thanksgiving food, so let me appreciate it instead of saying, oh, my Indian chicken is so spicy and this is so bland. So I wanted to ask you ladies, like, your culture shock, what is, not just but also what are the challenges the women you work with face? Because some people have already told me, like, asked me questions like, what are some of the expat challenges folks face? And each of you works with specific groups of people, so just wanted to learn from all of you. And you can, whoever wants to go to, let's just open it up. So.
I would love to take that, because this is something that has been on my mind for a long time as an immigrant or expat. And actually, I found it very interesting when you said immigrant and we're talking about expat.
So I just want to quickly add to that. The reason why I call it the expat woman, because when I lived in India and I went to Hong Kong and Singapore and Dubai, people of color were the immigrants and Caucasians were the expats, even though they were both coming for the same jobs. So, and I just said, I'm not going to call it the immigrant woman, I'm going to, and it's a very broad term, expat, but I just like to bring up the expat woman, but I want to say everyone is an expat. And it's, I'm now a citizen, but I still consider myself an expat. So that's why I call it the expat, because I want to.
No, I love it, because it's very true. When we see the Western, white people travel to Asia, we call them expat. Right. But the other way around, it's always immigrants.
Right, and it's not to knock the white people here, but it's just like,
sorry.
But it's just something. It's come down from many. It's like generations ago, and we have to just break bones. Right. Okay.
Anyway, so for me, when I came here from Europe to the US, one of the things that I started to really notice is that here in America, people often talk about my rights. I have the right to do X, my right, whatever, right? And I kind of started thinking, I felt very uncomfortable at many times when people saying that, because I thought, why? And I started to ask myself, and I realized that from where I'm coming from, and Dutch people are generally also very humble, right? In the Dutch culture, it's also about you not like blowing your own trumpet, and it's the same for in the Asian culture as well. And I think that's where I started to think like, yeah, that's so different. Here, it's very about self-advocacy to the point that you should not shy away from that, right? And I think for everybody who are here and didn't grow up here, it feels very uncomfortable, right? And how can we find the balance between self-advocacy, but as well staying true to yourself? That's a very, very difficult balance to strike. So I think that was one of the things that I started to notice of like, I don't know if I can say, my right is this, I should have the right to do this. And it's like, that feels very uncomfortable. I think that was one of the big things that I noticed like is very different. where I'm coming from.
I think from both countries, I think at a job interview too, I had to learn that you don't say we did the project.
You have to self-market yourself, you have to sell yourself.
But I think it's a good practice because I think it helps you push you out of your comfort zone when you have to talk about yourself, and I think it can be it's hard. It was very hard for me too. Now I think I've reached that stage where it's all I, but it's a great...
But it's the same thing when you were saying, it depends on where you are, because if I go back to my home country, which is the Netherlands, and I'm doing that, they probably think like, you are very arrogant.
Right.
It's like, wow, who are you, right? So I think it's kind of, we have to be adjusting ourselves constantly, and I think that's the amazing thing of all of us in traveling and living in a different country. We becoming very resilient, very adjustable. So I'm very sure you don't have any problem with that.
Lovely, thank you.
For me, I went through all the stages that immigrants or expats. When I came here, I got the little letter from a friend, or it was like an article, I think. And there were all the stages I went through. So in the beginning, what happens, you are just fascinated with everything. You see only good things. Probably you've heard about that, right? So I went through all of that. Then there's this disappointment, you miss things are crazy, you don't like that parking curb is painted red, like you find all these strange things. And I went through all of these things. But what was a big shock for me was the I can do attitude. And that if you know what you want, you can get it and you can go for it. There are no limits. No one is gonna stop you. And I think that's from the self-advocacy, right? And this is so powerful because Poland is not like that. Poland, no, everyone is gonna notice your imperfections, some little things that are not so good. And here, no, it's good that you even started. So it's like starting, failing, moving forward, trying again, and that's what was a shocking thing in the beginning, and maybe that's why I liked it so much, and I'm still here. Because if you really know what you want, you can get it. But it's not always easy to figure out what you really want. So that's a journey as well. Yes.
For me, it was very different because I started very young being an immigrant. I started at 4, from Iran to Germany, and then 10 years there to be who I became, and then coming here and becoming something else because the rule books are different, the culture is different, the experience is different. And I didn't have as much shocks that most people have because I felt like I'm a citizen of the world. I didn't feel at that point I'm coming from a home place. I left the home because I've done it before. But in Germany, I learned something that I carry on today. And one of the best things I think we can all learn from is when community thrives, we all thrive. And that's something I think it's in Europe. Europeans, generally speaking, when you live in a town, you want to support each other. And you make sure they're all successful. When I came here, I felt like I'm an individual. And my community particularly, I felt that they didn't have a sense of belonging and they needed to prove themselves. And that was a shock for me because I didn't identify as anything as a human being coming here. And what I learned from that is you have to be authentic in yourself. You can't color yourself to be somebody else. Something, Naina said earlier with your accent or your culture, as unique we are, we stand out much more as human instead of blending in as every single person in that room. For me, working through so many different companies or building companies, I never forgot about where I came from, but I also understood where I'm standing and who I'm talking to. I stayed true to myself and the culture I'm presenting at that current stage, not 10 years ago, not, 4 years ago, but really who I am today. And I think that changes not only your perspective, but somebody who's standing in front of you as well to understand and get to know you as well.
Nice. I think I can echo a lot of the things that have been said about what can be maybe a shock when you first come to the US. I wouldn't really call it a shock though. I would say some things are curiosities and some things are irritants. So you have the positive and the negative effects. For example, coming from a culture or having been socialized as Austrian, we are traditionally pessimistic, naggers, and love to talk about things in a very negative way. And we actually enjoy that. This is part of our culture. So when I first came to the US, actually as a visitor, as a tourist, and I walked into whichever random store, and the person working in the store said, "Hey, how are you?" And I thought, "Who are you? I don't know you. Why do you care how I am?" Or people would say, "Hey, how's your day been?" When you sit down in an Uber. It's like, why do you want to know? This is strange. I don't like this. So those were the irritants maybe. And I remember when I heard about, or when I was sure that I would come here to San Francisco, and I talked about another colleague, an Austrian diplomat who had worked in New York. So she had the US experience, and I told her actually, I'm really worried about how I'm gonna handle all these superficial niceties and people who ask me how I am, etc. And she was great. She looked at me and said like, look at me. Hi, how are you? And now repeat. Fine, how about you? And now you practice that on your way home. So I think after a few years I'm done with that. I was also very irritated by people on the street that went like, "Oh, I love your dress." Same. I was like, what do you want from me? Go away. The curiosities, however, and this is really the positive side, and it's partly part of the I like your dress or jacket thing, is that especially San Francisco, the Bay Area, as I'm sure everybody here knows, is just such a diverse place. There are people from everywhere, and there are all kinds of accents, there are all kinds of food, smells, tastes, you name it. And it's such a tolerant culture, and it's so permissive, and you can just be. And people will let you. I cannot say this about my country, as you may guess now. You want to blend in very well. You want to be very chameleon. Here, you can do that, but if you don't, it's fine. And it seems that everybody will accept that too. And this has been a very new experience for me and a very positive one. So that's what I really like about here. And the food.
Yeah, I agreed with you, Isabella. The biggest, the culture shock for me was I discovered how optimistic people are here in Silicon Valley. Because, in Japan, we have a proverb, 石橋を叩いて渡る, which means, which means tap on a stone bridge before crossing. It illustrates how we should be very careful before taking action. And generally in Japan, it is regarded as a good behavior. But in Silicon Valley, it's totally different. They broadly take risk and move forward without excessive worries, right? And in my current working place, some potential, my supervisor is the Silicon Valley veteran. In Japan, I would say from my boss that you should be polite, you should even blah, blah, blah. Always I say that I should be something. But in Silicon Valley, always he say that, oh yes, great, fantastic, that's all. So it's totally different. But to some extent, I was really inspired because this cultural difference. That is also the motivation for me to create the new organization, new non-profit organization supporting Japanese women in Silicon Valley. And yeah, thanks to that difference, it makes me more open-minded. Yeah.
I like the open-minded. I definitely think, and everything that all of you shared, yes to everything. It's just, it's so interesting. And we come from different countries, experiences, but our blood is red, and our experiences in the US are similar, right? So it's just, yeah. So my next question wanted to ask all of you is, what is one thing you're proud of achieving in the US? Because, when you come from another country, there's so many challenges and hurdles, but professionally, is there something you're proud of achieving, and what did you do to achieve that? Either mindset or habit, or a book, or a mentor, what helped you achieve that success? For me, I'll say my success is being I would say I found my superpower in the US, because in India I was working in the biotech, I was working in the lab and then marketing, but I couldn't work in the corporate world. I didn't like working in the lab. I just did it because I think Seppi was saying, if my dad wanted to be a doctor or engineer. My dad's an engineer, my brother's an engineer. There's a lot of pressure in India, at least in those days, you either become a doctor or engineer. So I didn't want to do either, so I told my dad I'll do science. Then I followed up in the biotech field, so I hated working in the lab. I came to the US, and because of the challenges and the hurdles, and I got clarity. I think when we step out of our comfort zone, we are forced to deal with so many, and for many of us, and I was just having a discussion 2 days ago with my members, that people say it was your choice to come abroad. Like if you're, in the case of if your partner moves and you have to move, you're a refugee or asylum, you don't have a choice. But for many of us, we made your parents move here, but for many of us, we made the choice to move here. I made the choice to stay here because I married my husband. You can't tell your family back home that it's miserable because of friends. They say, you decided to move here, right? So when you have challenges and hurdles, you have to kind of bear it quietly. Like when you see photos of expats on Instagram and it all seems so fabulous, like, oh, look at them on the beach, or look at them, on whatever, Golden Gate Bridge, jogging on the bridge, or sunset on Ocean Beach, whatever. It's not, very rarely do people share their challenges, but I think because of that, I kind of had to figure out what I want to do. I don't want to do filmmaking, I don't want to work in the corporate world. I worked with a non-profit for a while, Upwardly Global. Malet is from Upwardly Global. Anyone knows about Upwardly Global? Amazing non-profit that helps immigrant professionals get jobs. I worked there for a while, and finally made a documentary film, and then finally I was like, my passion, I feel I have to empower other women. I wouldn't have done any of it if I didn't come to the US and went through that. So for me, that's my success, and being able to now empower other women and give them the mic to, when I say mic, but like what I'm doing today, showcasing other women, spotlighting other women, and also sharing my voice. So for me, that's been my success, getting clarity and now helping other women get clarity and showcase there. So just what was, success could be different. It doesn't mean a big car, a big house, or being the CEO of a company. It could be anything, but what did the journey here lead you to that success, and what are you proud of achieving? So whoever wants to again would do that. Go ahead.
So I talked about my dad wanting me, or my parents wanting me to be either a doctor, engineer, or a lawyer. when I decided to be an entrepreneur, all family members were trying to find me a job. So it took many years for my dad to be proud of me as an entrepreneur. In 2012, when I was the first Iranian woman, non-technical person speaking at Google I/O, my dad cried, called me when I sent him the video, and understood the path that I took. I'm not proud of that part. I'm proud that I was able to prove that as a person I can make choices, regardless of anybody's expectation of me, and I can survive all of it and be successful in my own way. And when I started Women of MENA in Technology, I was not as an individual, but as an organization, over 100 volunteers and thousands of partners. We impacted over 100,000 women of their worth. And when I think about that sometimes between my son's nap and all the different things that I do during the day and what we have achieved, I'm proud of that. Because every day we all make choices. We can have that, corporate job, and that's okay if that's what you want and that's your goal. That was never mine. But I'm proud that I did it my way. And so my message to you is you can do anything you want, regardless of what your parents think. They're gonna be proud of you one day, I promise you. When you get where you want to be, or the goals you have set for yourself, like 100,000 women around the world or beyond. But really, you should be proud of what you're doing. You have gone through so much. The process that we go through, the changes we have to put through. I just feel that anything you do where you are here sitting in these chairs, you should be proud of yourself. And I'm proud of you too. Thank you.
Well, thanks for elaborating what success means, because I think success for everybody is very different, right? And for me, one thing that I'm very proud of, I don't know if that's success, but so all my siblings are still in the Netherlands. I'm the oldest, and I have 2 sisters and a brother. And I managed still to have a very, very close relationship with them. When they are having issues at work, relationship issues, the first person they call is me. And if you ask me, of success or, how I relate to being proud, that is something for me very important. Is despite I've been out of my home country for many years, I think like 20 now, is that I'm still able to have a very, very close relationship with my siblings. And that's really, really dear to me, right? So that's how I would see success. The other success is, of course, that I'm very proud of, and I'm still working on that, is what we're doing with my nonprofit Asians Are Strong. Is how can I create a community here in San Francisco where my Asian community feel belonging, especially after such a hard time during the pandemic. And our events, and I would love to welcome you all to the Asian Women Are Strong event that will be held every year in March in Asian Art Museum. But it's very important to me to see this community thriving, right? That is one thing that I'm super excited about, proud of, that I'm working on constantly, day in, day out, next to my day job, right? So that will be for me where I feel success, right? Enjoy it, making impact, making space for others to feel, strength, space that they feel safe to voice their concerns as well, their joys.
Thank you for sharing. And one of my achievement in my life in the US is, I think to launch the non-profit organization in the US, Joiva, because as you know, it's in some meaning it looks funny, but it's really serious. But as you know, in Japan, we are ranked fourth in terms of economy, but when we think about the gender gap, we are ranked 130, so it's serious in Japanese culture. So I'm very proud to launch Japanese Women's Initiative in the US and connect our initiative to Japan culture. So I'm very proud of it. And also, Joiva is relatively new organization. We are just 3 years old, but we are already featured in Japanese major media outlet, and also as well as the number of participants is over 1,000. So I think it called a success, right? So it's not my professional job, but I poured into it as much passion as I can. And also these achievements, the reason why we can get this success is because, as I said before, I was inspired the sense of entrepreneurship that the people in Silicon Valley had. And also I consciously leverage the strengths that the Japanese nationals have when I managed Joiva as an organization. We have, the diligence, persistence, and the teamwork, right? And this year we have 9 organizing members, and almost every day we communicate, right? Friendly and with fun. So I'm very proud of this teamwork. So that's another success I got in Silicon Valley.
Success, the mic is on. Yeah, I agree. Success is something very different for different people. In my job, for example, because I'm not a businesswoman, I don't sell anything, so I don't make profits in monetary terms. So it's maybe a bit more difficult to really measure success. But what I personally like the best about my job, which essentially you could say is being a facilitator and a connector, is when I manage to bring people together, be it people who have maybe lived in the Bay Area for a long time but don't know each other for some reason, or people who have come in for a conference, for whatever, and I bring them together because I know both and I feel you would get along, you would be very useful to know for the other person. And when they then get back to me and say, it's so cool that you introduced me to X because, we totally hit it off and now we're going to do this and that together, etc., which is just the perfect outcome from my point of view. And then because you also shared the private side of success, that is actually even more difficult in my case. I have 2 kids. My daughter is 11 and my son will be 8 next week. So when we moved to San Francisco, my daughter was 8, and it was towards the very end of the school year that I only got the confirmation that I would actually come here. And when I told her, she bursted into tears, and it was a total emotional roller coaster. She didn't want to leave. She didn't want to leave her friends, her school, etc., etc. She had never been to the US, to San Francisco, etc. So no matter what you tell a child at that age about, but it's actually a really cool city and you're gonna like it, it's all no, it's all negative. And we came here, and the first day, it was an open door day at school, and she could walk around, and the teacher was nice, and the other kids seemed nice, and I thought, maybe it's gonna go well. And then she came out of the classroom, ran into my arms, and cried again, and I said, what's wrong? And she said, they all sang a song together, and I thought, so what's the problem with that? And she said, but I didn't know the lyrics, and I couldn't sing along. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to be a lot more difficult than I thought. And then after 1 week, she came home for the first time after school and said, Mom, I think I found a friend today. And I was like, oh. Because I had already seen myself wearing the badge of the worst mother of the world for months. And then I remember at the end of the first year, it was a Christmas party, like for work. So no fun. And I talked to another female colleague of mine and who also had kids. And I said, so you have kids? Yeah, I have 2. And I said, oh yeah, me too. And I asked her, where's your husband? Well, he's home with the kids. Ah, so is mine. And she said, so, worst mother of the world, high five. which was our way of kind of supporting one another. And this sometimes also helps, you know, because it can really suck to be a mother that works and you want to make it right for the job, you don't want to make it right for the family, and you just can't, because that's what it is. And in a way you gotta accept that too, because else you're just gonna be miserable.
Yes, success. It's a very good question, and as you ladies mentioned, everyone defines it in their own words and differently. One of the successes that I would like to mention is actually nonprofit, Polish Professional Women of Silicon Valley, because that's the only organization like that in California and the only organization like that in the entire US or Polish community. And it's just amazing to hear successes of other women, of our members, and their happy stories and how they got a job, how their mentorship was successful. And this brings incredible energy for me, because this is also a nonprofit that I spend my time after my work hours, but it gives me so much energy, and it's so powerful. And that's the giving back that one time, or even already, it came back more than 100 times to me. So I would say that this is a big success, and Naina, I think you feel the same with Expat Women, right?
I do. Thank you, ladies. That's everyone's stories again. It's, you know, just so inspiring and makes me emotional to hearing, you know, all of you and how you define it and how it changes us. So I'm going to now open it up for a few questions. And so Club is like after 8 o'clock, it's like Cinderella. What is the Cinderella whose pumpkin changes? Chariot change. Okay. So like usually 8 they start dimming the lights and then they want us to network in the lobby. But you can stay till like 10, they're fine, but I think just their staff and stuff. So I'm gonna have a few questions now, and then we'll take a nice photograph with all of us. Hopefully everyone's, those who don't want to be in the photo, are you talking to me? Okay, sorry, some sign language is so cute. Okay, and then hopefully you can get to whoever wants to meet each of the panelists, but I also encourage all of you, everyone is on LinkedIn. After this event, connect with, I don't want anyone here going home feeling like more lonely than when they came. Like I've gone to a few events where I've gone to the event with high expectations and I feel lonelier when I go back because no one was friendly and welcoming. So I've been to a few of those in San Francisco, in fact. So I just want everyone today to make sure they connect with at least one person, the panelists, with each other, and then meet up for coffee or meet up virtually, because I want you to make that connection, and I just feel everyone's on the same path here. So with that being said, do you have a question for a specific panelist? And maybe if it's a general question, maybe we just have one or two panelists respond, so we give more people time. So maybe better to come up here so that you can ask the question. Then you don't have to pass the microphone. Right side. And briefly introduce yourself to people know.
Okay, wow, that's a lot of pressure.
So it's all about speaking up, building visibility, and this is a very safe, and you look at Evan's face, Evan's so kind. So this is your opportunity. Very safe. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Sai Zoshi, and I know Naina since I think 2019 when COVID happened, and we've been in touch
You were
virtually.
one of my first members of the Expat movement.
Yes.
And where do you work?
Thank you. And this is very inspiring. I have always been an advocate for women, whether it's in technology or any other groups, minority, majority. This has been really inspiring. But I heard all of you, in some sense, talk about accents and identities, and it seems like accents and identity are really close knit. And a lot of you have moved around, have experienced different cultures. Do you think that your sense of identity changes when you speak in different languages and accents? And how does that shape you?
I go first this time. Yes. I feel that, actually even other people feel that and have told me that already, and I think it's absolutely true. I originally studied Romansh languages and literature, so Spanish in that sense. I speak English, I speak French, I also speak Portuguese from living in Brazil. And I know for a fact that, for example, when I speak Spanish, I use a lot more swear words. When I speak French, I sound more elegant and I'm a different person, actually. Yes, even the tone of voice changes. I've been told by other people who are not German speakers, and maybe you can relate, that of course German sounds like a very evil language. And this is actually being accelerated by the fact that apparently my voice, when I speak German, goes lower. So I quote, I have been told that when I speak German, I sound even more scary. And yes, absolutely, there are some things that I say in foreign languages, when I translate them in my head into German, I say to myself, I would have never said that in German, like not that way. So yes, absolutely, your identity changes, and it molds with your surroundings and the people that speak the other language that you speak.
Can I just say, it's so funny that we say that we have accent, or I have heard from people, oh, you sound different, where are you from, right? Everyone has accent. Every single person has accent. So it's just weird to me that when people say you have an accent. Okay, so do you?
Well, I don't think that I sound scary when I speak German. Ich spreche sehr gut Deutsch. Ich habe in Deutschland vor 10 Jahren gelebt. However, je parle français un petit peu, man farsi balad hastam, and I speak English as well. Okay, fine. No hablo español, or un poquito, okay, fine. So, I actually want to tell you something. Whoever is in front of me, and if I speak that language, I format that person. Like, that culture comes out of me. I have French friends. Somehow, the way I talk has a French accent. I'm in England, in London. I'm speaking American English, and somehow I have a London accent. When I speak English in the US, I have German accent. Or when I speak Farsi, they say, we don't know where you're from. So, I've never said that I don't or I do. When people ask me, I said, no, I don't. I speak of who I am. I don't own it or I own it. This is who I am. Because I think everybody pronounces things differently. Because of Germany, I don't see V as a Victor, I say V as Volvo. Okay, that's my German side, I guess. But and I own it. What I want to say is, accents are in the eyes of the beholder. It could be beautiful because it's ooh la la, or it can be whatever else you want it to be. I think you should own who you are. You're so authentic of who you are. It makes up from your experiences, the language you speak, and who you are as a person, and the authenticness that you bring to that other person, that it really doesn't matter. I don't hear accents when I talk to people. I don't even see color or whatever. I see what feeling I get from that person or the vibe that I get from that person.
Thank you. And I think accent gives you that unique edge. It tells people that this person can speak more than one language, or this person has lived in more than one country.